What's going on, guys? RBG here, bringing you another Marvel's Avengers upload, and this is sort of a follow-up / update to the last video I did, because obviously a lot of things have unfolded since I made that video, and there's a great deal of things I want to address. So I basically did a rant video venting my frustrations with the current state of Marvel's Avengers, and for the most part, a good majority of you understood where I was coming from. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that the game isn't in the best state in terms of content and overall optimization, and I try not to be too harsh on the devs for that reason. But I felt the need to just talk about it, especially since people wanted to hear why I stopped covering the game. And although I got generally positive comments agreeing with me, I got a bunch of people saying that I was downright hating on the game. I had people saying that I was making the video for clicks, which I kind of find funny because if you've been following my channel, you noticed that there was these huge gaps in time when I wouldn't even upload any Avengers videos. We're talking like a month after it was released and I didn't upload anything. After doing extensive coverage and a review for a title, I usually move on to something else, especially if there's not much to talk about with that said title. That's basically what I did for Marvel's Avengers. But in its defense, it's a games as a service title, which is a little out of the norm from what I usually cover. So rightfully so, you guys were expecting me to continue talking about it. And I somewhat did. I talked about the leaked characters and gave reasons as to why people shouldn't be too harsh on the game. As you all know, Spider-Man Miles Morales was white hot in terms of its buzz, so I took a 2-month hiatus from Avengers. But the guys in the community got in touch with me to do a podcast talking about the game, which I agreed to do, and you got another upload from me in November. Like, I tried my best to give you guys something because I know you like hearing my thoughts on the game, but when I came out with the most recent video for Marvel's Avengers, I was accused of switching sides, and I just want to ask this: when are you guys going to stop turning a blind eye towards the obvious issues this game has? When are you going to realize that if you give the devs an inch, they'll take a mile? Like, I don't think you guys realize how far your voice extends when you want something to be done. You shouldn't settle for less. Like, it's gotten to the point to where if we have these game-breaking bugs, we have to come up with these workarounds to supplement the issue. And it shouldn't have to be that way. Like, I shouldn't have to restart a heroic gauntlet because the game crashes, or have to turn my internet off and on to access a key mission that's required to gain an exotic artifact. That's how bad it's gotten since the game has been released. I think you'd be lying if you said you didn't get a little infuriated when you had to restart a mission because one of the enemies got stuck behind a wall. It's just funny when I mention these things, I get called everything but a child of God. Like, you swear I was one of those reporters who pretend to play the game, and anytime they have something negative to say, they mention the low player count, which they always leave out the fact that it's the PC player base. So let's get real, guys. I've been legit since 2012 when I started this channel, and I don't need to make videos on Marvel's Avengers for clout. I made videos on this game because I love the idea, and I didn't see how Crystal Dynamics could fail when they have everything laid out in front of them. And some of you mentioned that you don't understand how my energy has changed since my initial review for the game was for the most part positive. And it's simple. I was reacting to what was first presented to me with the story and online multiplayer in its infancy. Like, the first wave of characters we got were great and the campaign was solid. But you guys gotta remember that this is a game that's gonna continue to expand with content, and unfortunately the time in which the content was promised didn't come to us. Like, we're close to our second season and we've only gotten 2 archers with subpar story campaigns. And this brings me to my review of the Hawkeye DLC and all the info that was released regarding the roadmap. Because a lot of you guys have been asking me what my thoughts are now that Crystal has actually given us something to go off of. And my response is that it's good that they finally have something in place, but it's a shame that we still don't have actual dates on everything we're getting on that roadmap, which is frustrating because it feels like we're back to square one where we got these cool things that are being promised to us, but anything can happen to change that. Now, from what I hear, the reason why it's taking so long to get all this additional content out is because the developers are focusing all their attention on fixing the overall game, and I commend them on that. There's a ton of bugs that need to be fixed to make sure that things are ready to roll out smoothly, so I appreciate that they've been trying to remedy that. But as some of you have heard me say before, when you introduce new elements, you're automatically going to break the foundation of the game. Something is always going to have bugs. And as a person still gaming on last gen hardware, this worries me. Like, the issue between the PS4 and PS5 are night and day. And I'm pretty sure the next gen consoles are going to be Crystal Dynamics' main priority in terms of optimization, which is totally understandable. Those are obviously the devices they have more power and they have a little more leg room to add more things to Marvel's Avengers. All of that's fine and dandy. Like, I'm pretty sure those who have the PS5 and Series X are enjoying the improved graphics and faster load times, but I'm still suffering on the PS4 with these stupidly long load screens and elevator rides. And it's not because I don't have the money to upgrade to a new system. It's because the thing is like a magical unicorn with cables coming out of it. Scalping is obviously at an all-time high, and I just don't have the time to be on a wild goose chase for a system that's hard to obtain. I would love to get one so I don't have to deal with these extremely long load times, especially when I have to restart a level after a glitch, but I simply can't at the moment. Like, this is an issue that affects a good majority of the player base who are still playing on the last gen hardware, and I'm hoping the devs still give this same time and attention even though they have the next gen consoles to work on. But anyways, regarding the new Hawkeye DLC, the character who everyone kept asking about but weren't happy in the order of which he was delivered to us. I've been playing with this guy since he dropped about 2 weeks ago, and I have some mixed thoughts about him. Based on my overall experience with Kate Bishop, I knew that I was going to get a fairly similar playstyle with Hawkeye. Like, I was ready for that, but I wasn't too high on his moveset compared to Kate's. I put in a ton of hours with her, and her heroics are pretty fun, especially after you upgrade them. Her assault heroic came in very handy in terms of crowd control, like you could set it to where it pulls in surrounding enemies and implodes. And her support heroic also aids in that department since it takes out any nearby enemies that step into the parameter. So Kate was very fun and effective to play with, and I spent a lot of time finding different kinds of gear that worked with her mechanics. Her evasive maneuvering is solid, and she just feels very nimble. Like, it usually takes characters to get to at least a power level of 130 until you get all the crazy stuff, but I felt a sense of power way sooner than that with Kate. So I was expecting Clint to be very similar in that regard as well, but unfortunately it was the total opposite. This character, along with the story mission, felt like it was missing something, especially with the way he was built up. Crystal was going on and on about the future imperfect storyline, which is a great comic book. I enjoyed reading those issues back in the 90s, and it's pretty smart of them to include the Maestro Hulk since Marvel has brought him back in the newer issues. But the way he's presented in this game is a major letdown. Everything that we saw in the trailer regarding this character can be seen in the last few minutes of the actual DLC. Like, you'd think we'd see him in multiple encounters, but he just appears in one little cutscene, and the story mode tries to build this mystery around him, just referring to him as he. Oh, he's gone mad and he's killed everyone. But we know who Old Man Clint is referring to. We know it's the Maestro. He's been featured in every damn trailer leading up to the release of the DLC, and his story was missing a lot. It would have been nice to see how he went on his rampage destroying each Avengers member and explain why we're fighting the same aimbots, but everything just felt like a blur minus the little cliffhanger leading up to the next story chapter. One of the biggest fears I had was that he'd be nothing more than a clone of Abomination, and that sort of turned out to be true. I mean, he has a few moves that differentiate the two, but he basically has the same tactics. He has the typical jump and ground pound with a few rush attacks, which is really disappointing since this character is supposed to be the total opposite from the usual Hulk we're accustomed to. This guy has cybernetic dogs in the comics, man. But all we got were the usual exploding robots that have been played to death. All in all, this DLC just felt like a complete downgrade compared to Kate's DLC, which is very weird. Like, I was expecting this one to be a bit longer, but it feels short in comparison to Taking Aim. I wasn't particularly fond of the Wasteland since there's a whole lot of space with these weird enemy spawns. Like, this is a map that needs more things going on, like more respawns to keep you occupied, instead of just jumping around to get from part A to part B. The Wasteland just wasn't fun to me, and as you all know, the key missions were bugged, so if you wanted that Void Tech transponders featuring the Hank Pym summoning, which I luckily got, you had to find some workarounds to get it. But anyways, let's get back onto the Hawkeye's overall gameplay. Because as I mentioned, we knew he'd be very similar to Kate, at least in terms of melee and ranged attacks. And I'm pretty sure every Hawkeye player spams the heavy attack combo since it's the go-to move for him and Kate. And that move is great. Like, a lot of people would say the bag of tricks combo is a little too great since it deals out major damage. So I know a lot of Hawkeye players are spamming that to death. I know I am. As far as his other attacks, I really don't care that much for him. Like, he has a light attack combo that shoots out this energy ball that looks similar to Kate's assault heroic, but it doesn't do much outside of just staggering the enemies. I say the heavy attacks and a few intrinsic abilities such as his rocket arrow that sends enemies flying after parrying are the most effective moves in his arsenal. When it comes to his heroics, they're very hit or miss, and that's mainly because they're bugged. Particularly his support and assault heroics. These things have been the bane of my existence, and like, they hold Hawkeye back from being a super effective character because the chances of them not working are extremely high. If you want to do some extremely hard missions such as a Mega Hive, you better make sure you have a Jarvis Barrier perk or at least be good in terms of defense, because Clint's recovery arrow will occasionally fail you in the most crucial moments. I can't count how many times my health was low in a Mega Hive, and when I tried to use my support heroic, the arrow got stuck. It's one of the most annoying things when you're about to complete a mission only to lose that perfect score because the arrow decided to get stuck in Clint's back, or it shot off but didn't work. The same goes for the Assault Heroic. And there are two bugs that you risk seeing with this move, right? One includes a similar problem with the Support Heroic where the arrow will get stuck, and the other is not being able to see the zone circle in which you drop the attack. There have been multiple times where there would have been a foreign object in the way and it would cause the arrow to drop where I didn't intend them to, or the circle doesn't appear at all. Like, I thought the vanilla version of Captain America's heroics were bad, but they pale in comparison to the bugs found in Clint's heroics, which is kind of disappointing because they're very effective when they actually work. Thankfully, I didn't really have that many problems with the ultimate heroic, the Hunter's Arrow. I found the move very effective when keeping enemies preoccupied while I'm trying to hack into terminals. But everything else is just okay. Like, the lockdown ability is very hit and miss, and I'm not sure if I'm doing it right, but more oftentimes than not, when I'm aiming, Clint points his arrow in the opposite direction or at the ground. You can do rapid fire headshots and switch to different targets while doing such, but the aiming can be stubborn and focus on the wrong enemies. It also doesn't help that the arrows don't hit enemies with energy shields. Like, there's a lot of cool ideas the devs thought of, but the execution is a little sloppy. Your mileage will vary with the character since there are some things you'll like about him and there are some things you'll dislike. I'd say he started to get fun to play with around the power level 135 when I found the right gear that fits him. I maxed him out at 150, but I went back down to 145 since I'm still playing around with the certain gear and artifacts. And speaking of artifacts, I've been having a lot of fun using the Void Tech Transponder. I know a lot of players are going to be coming up with Pym Particle builds for their heroes since this particular artifact deals out a lot of damage for particle based attacks, and Hank Pym is just a game changer. Like, I initially thought that he'd be like one of those Smash Brothers summonings that can't be hit, but Hank can actually be hit by the enemy, and in some cases he works as a decoy. Like, there have been times where he actually got knocked off the cliff by Taskmaster, but if you have the Void Tech leveled up high enough, he can one-shot enemies. So this is definitely one of those go-to artifacts you want to have if you're going into a mission with a powerful enemy type. But with all that said, let's talk about the roadmap, because this is what you guys really want to hear my thoughts on. And I just gotta say that other than Black Panther being announced, I don't really have much to say about it. I feel like there's still a level of uncertainty from the developers since we didn't get actual release dates on most of the reveals. It just seems like their main focus is fixing the game before rolling it out. And I can imagine that Black Panther's release could possibly get pushed back because of it, because that's going to be the thing that changes the overall landscape of Marvel's Avengers since it's an expansion. Wakanda's probably going to have a whole war table on its own, and that's going to be the deciding factor if players want to continue to play the game or not. I'm pretty sure I speak for everyone when I say we're tired of the same AIM facilities. As far as the MCU costumes are concerned, I'm happy, but I'm a little worried about that too. Like, I know that Crystal Dynamics said that we shouldn't be worried when they say that these costumes are quote-unquote inspired by the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I want to believe them, but there's been more times than not where they've just repurposed pre-existing cosmetics into what they tried to pass off as new suits, like this Superior Iron Man suit that they just revealed. Yeah, it looks awesome, but it's basically a recolor of the Epic outfit with a new head model. But I guess I can give them a pass since it looks cool and they used the right assets. Unlike the Ultimate Iron Man suit, which should have used the Star Boost armor legs instead of those ones from the prototype armor. Hopefully they don't try to pull this same tactic with the MCU costumes though. I want to see some suits made fresh from the ground up that mirrors the ones from the movies. And I hope these things come in cycles, because as we all know, there have been over 20 MCU films, so there are a plethora of costumes to add into this game. Also, to the people complaining that these are gonna be only available in the marketplace, just stop. I don't know what you expected, but this is a games as a service title, and in order to compensate for the work put into it, the developers have to make some money back. I mean, they're giving you free DLC characters and missions, so this shouldn't be anything worth complaining about. My only gripe with the devs is that they should lean more towards a mobile game approach and give players consistent login rewards from time to time. Like, maybe give us 100 or 200 credits to motivate us to keep playing and actually save up on credits for a rainy day. Because I do believe that you don't have to spend real money in the marketplace if you have enough in-game credits. But if these suits turn out good, I'll be more than happy to spend my actual money. Anyways guys, I think I've rambled on long enough. I just wanted to give you an update on how I feel about the game and clarify that I don't hate it or am making a video for clout. I played this game more than you think, and I have 6 characters leveled at 140 to 150 in power levels. But I don't want to keep doling out videos if there's not much to talk about. I ain't gonna say any names, but there's already someone who uploads tons of videos with clickbait titles like, wow, I can't believe they did this. And every video is 8 minutes long because they know that that's the amount of minutes YouTube now allows to insert multiple ads instead of just a 10-minute video. Like, if you guys can praise somebody for talking about nothing for 8 minutes, then you can at least hear me out in some of the things I have to say. But let me know what you think. Did you like the Hawkeye DLC? And how do you feel about the new roadmap that's been laid out? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I ask you like or dislike the video. It doesn't have to be a thumbs up, it can be a thumbs down. Any feedback is good feedback and will only help me improve on my channel. But if you really enjoyed the video, it would help me out tremendously if you shared it with all your friends and followers on social media outlets. Sharing really makes a difference. But once again, this is your boy RBG signing out on another video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.